Hello everyone, this is Taylor Edrington with Royal Gorge Anglers in Canon City, Colorado, the only Orbis endorsed outfitter on the Arkansas River and oldest fly shop and guide service on the Arkansas. Thanks so much for viewing. This is a fly fishing video report for the Arkansas drainage. It is May 3rd, early May on the Arkansas. Man, we've had a fabulous spring season thus far, and it looks like we're going to get another 3 weeks of great, solid spring fishing on the Arkansas. Just a little update on, what we see with runoff. As far as what we forecast a start time for runoff to be. With these last couple late cool-offs and storms in the mountains, most likely we're going to see runoff delay. Quite possibly until the 21st, 22nd, maybe even later than that. Typically by the 25th, no matter what year, what weather, what's going on, we're going to see some kind of runoff contribution into the river. And so expect that, but we most likely will see 3 more weeks of great conditions for caddis fishing, BWOs, etc. So expect solid fishing through the 20th of May. Currently flows are hovering right above 300 CFS in Bighorn Sheep Canyon, obviously moving upriver slightly less than that. So flows are low. They're kind of holding back some water. Snowpack is still under 100% of average, even with this last little cool off and storm in the mountains. Like I said, we did have a small spring storm this last weekend, the last weekend in April, which cooled things down quite a bit, kind of put a pause on the caddis hatch activity, which we had been seeing extremely heavy in Bighorn Sheep Canyon early last week, and the weekend prior. So what we most likely will see occur, and we've already seen some signs of it in the last 24 hours, is a startup of that same caddis activity, heavy caddis hatch activity in Bighorn Sheep Canyon, and most likely we'll see that start up in the Spikebuck through Coaldale section, quite possibly covering that entire span of river. Potentially we will see some strong caddis activity into the Howard area by this weekend, and probably more sporadic caddis activity in the Salida area. We've really seen no sporadic activity up that high yet. There has been some pupation and heavy caddis larva feeding up there, so we expect that to happen here in the next 10 days. However, this week and weekend expect for the heaviest caddis activity to remain in Bighorn Sheep Canyon as we kind of hit play again on the hatch and start to see it kind of resume in that area that it left off in last week. Like I said, the last 24 hours, our guides have witnessed some sporadic caddis hatch activity and heavy pupation in the lower Bighorn Sheep Canyon area, as well as in the Cotopaxi area. So we think that's coming in the next 24 to 48 hours, that heavy caddis hatch activity once again. So we expect this week to quite possibly be one of the most productive weeks of the spring time period. So definitely plan accordingly. With the cooler, wet, kind of overcast weather we had this last weekend, the BWO hatch action was just tremendous. Probably some of the best BWO hatches we've seen thus far this spring. And we do expect to continue to see that BWO life cycle activity heavy in Bighorn Sheep Canyon, along with the caddis activity. So do be prepared for both life cycles. We are still fishing stonefly nymphs, still fishing caddis larva heavy, and BWO nymphs as well in the mornings. Still taking some fish on midge larvae as well, although that's kind of tapering. And then typically once we see water column begin to warm, we start to see some caddis pupation, we start to see some BWO emergence, and we adjust our rigs accordingly, moving those BWO emergers and caddis emergers into your rigs, whether it be in a nymph rig, whether it be in a dry dropper rig or a dry emerger rig, so on and so forth. Typically, the afternoon features the heavier hatch activity. From 1 to 2 p.m. typically is a start time period for caddis hatch activity as well as BWO hatch activity. When you start to see a lot of fish up, whether they're bulging, dimpling the surface, eating emergers, or actually actively eating adults, that's your time to make a switch to a single dry or a dry emerger, whether it be caddis or BWOs. So, long story short, be prepared with BWOs, be prepared with caddis. Most likely you're going to see heavy activity on both life cycles this week, and until runoff, really. When we look at the long-term forecast, things look very, very steady. Mid-60s highs into the mid-70s. We've got a few warmer days here and there. That will be very conducive for caddis hatch activity along the river corridor, as well as BWO activity and really strong streamer activity, typically in the mornings and evenings. So let's kind of look at some simple rigs. Nothing has really changed on rigging as far as the caddis life cycle is concerned, and BWO life cycle. I will pinpoint some patterns here for you. Like I said, typically if we're nymphing in the morning or even through the afternoon, if you're not seeing a lot of caddis hatch activity and BWO hatch activity, you need to stay deep and nymph to be most productive. Stoneflies we're fishing, biot stone, fishing a lot more gold, brighter gold colorations within your stonefly nymphs. Tungsten Goldie's been one of our favorites here. That's a couple stonefly nymphs to take a look at. Typically our guides are running 3 nymphs in a rig on a western rig, going stonefly number 1, caddis larva number 2, BWO nymph number 3 in the morning. Your caddis larva representation, that first stage of the caddis life cycle, chartreuse copperjohn is a fantastic fly, and Shea Gunkel's roller, caddis roller, another fantastic caddis larva. There's a couple of caddis larva attractor nymphs that we've been doing extremely well with. One is the Psycho Prince in the caddis green, and another is the Hot Wire Prince with the palmered chartreuse wire body. So those are some you can kind of interchange into that caddis larva. And then continuing on with that morning rig, your BWO nymph, this Mighty May has been excellent, tungsten bead. Okay, and also doing extremely well on tungsten hunchbacks, which is a little bit lighter olive color. Okay, and then like I said, when water temperatures raise, whether it's into the low 50s, mid 50s, depending on the day, maybe high 50s, we move into those kind of beadhead emerger rigs. You can keep this under a stonefly if fish are eating deeper, or move it up in the water column. Here's your caddis emerger beadhead. That's called the diving caddis there, which has been very productive. And one of our most productive, the nitro caddis. And then as soon as you start to see caddis activity, in the subsurface film, hatching, so on and so forth, you can move to a more non-bead version of your caddis pupa, which would be the bubble pupa, and the graphic caddis as our number 1 and number 2 fly, as far as the non-bead head caddis pupa. Those are both just excellent. You can run those, you know, a couple feet down. You can run them in the film. You can run them, you know, under a dry on the surface, so to speak. For your BWO, if you start to see BWO hatches, start to see fish actively feeding in that first 2 feet or in the subsurface film, the shot glass blue dun coloration has been a fantastic emerger. And then we've done extremely well as of late on flashback bars emergers. And then as we move into dry fly activity, whether it be caddis or BWOs, let's kind of start with the caddis. There's a couple patterns we've really done well with thus far in the caddis hatch. One of our favorites is the Drangler's Peacock caddis, very dark bodied fly. We've done extremely well with this fluttering caddis, which is a dark olive coloration, very easy to see. And, you know, as far as skating caddis, you know, if you really like to skate caddis, Charlie Craven's Banshee, Screaming Banshee, is a great fly. And then as far as your egg layers are concerned, which are the females that return in the evenings, or sometimes you see quite a few in the mornings, you've got your clown shoe caddis. And you've got your little hottie, okay, which is Larry Kingery's pattern. And then as those egg layers return and towards the end of that egg layer hatch, so to speak, that return to the water, we also see quite a few spent caddis on the water, which are essentially what's left of the bug after it drops its egg sac, just the wings essentially. And this is Lawson's spent caddis. We also have Larry Kingery's spent caddis, and we like to run those underneath the egg layer as a dry dropper combo. When there are a lot of egg layers and spent caddis on the water. Spent caddis can be particularly effective in kind of foam eddies where any bugs kind of congregate or get pushed to after an egg layer hatch. As far as your BWO dries are concerned, and like I said, you want to focus on caddis as well as BWOs. Your Film Critic, great fly, kind of flag done. And then a favorite here on this river, the Wild Turkey, and that's Larry Kingery's pattern. Like I said, don't keep your keep your streamer box on you. Don't leave those at home. Fish have been very, very aggressive and movement prone. They react to flies swinging through the water column, and we've been fishing a lot of larger general attractor streamers up front, olives and tans. Your pseudo sculpin is a fantastic fly. Your baby gonga in an olive, another great fly, Charlie Craven's. And then Bennett's Lunch Money has been a particular fan favorite. Essentially we're running that attractor as a lead fly, and then we're running trailers. There are a lot of brown trout fry in the water column, so we're running these small Takahashi's mini minnows. And some of our guides are taking caddis pupa bead heads and running those as trailers underneath the streamer and doing very well. Like your diving caddis again, or your nitro caddis, running those underneath that lead attractor streamer.